Good morning, 5th grade. Let's go ahead and get started on Chapter 5, Lesson 2, talking about the Declaration of Independence. Let's go ahead and start off by looking at the timeline. So we have April 1775. We have the battles of Lexington and Concord. In January of 1776, we have Thomas Paine publishes Common Sense. In May of 1776, we have the Second Continental Congress begins meeting again. In July of 1776, we have Congress agrees on the Declaration of Independence. August of 1776, members of Congress began to sign the Declaration of Independence. And so this is a picture here of the committee of 5 that was appointed to draft the Declaration of Independence. Okay, so our essential question for Lesson 2 is, why is the Declaration of Independence still important today? So we're going to think about that as we read through. Why is the Declaration of Independence still important today? Enlightened thinking. Many European philosophers in the 17th and 18th centuries wanted to understand how reason and knowledge could improve people's lives. This movement was known as the Enlightenment. Thinkers such as John Locke and Thomas Hobbes in England and Jean-Jacques Rousseau in France also used these ideas to change the way people thought about government. Before this time, most people in Europe believed that the kings and queens had a divine right to rule. This right allowed the monarchs to rule with absolute power over their subjects. As Enlightenment ideas spread, however, people began to believe that the main duty of government was to protect its citizens. In return, the people would give their consent to be governed by a ruler. This idea is called the social contract. The Enlightenment greatly influenced the Americans who wrote the Declaration of Independence. The idea of the social contract is particularly important in the Declaration. And this here is a picture of Jean-Jacques Rousseau. We have common sense. Let me go ahead and zoom in one more time on this. Thomas Paine was living in London when he met Benjamin Franklin. Franklin advised Paine to emigrate to North America to build a new life there. When Paine arrived in Philadelphia in November of 1774, the colonies were edging toward revolution. He got a job as the editor of Pennsylvania Magazine. After fighting broke out in Lexington and Concord, Paine wrote a 50-page pamphlet called Common Sense. He published it in January of 1776. He argued that government should be a social contract, as other Enlightenment thinkers had suggested. Paine also believed that the colonies had lived through so much tyranny that there could be no reconciliation with Great Britain. Paine put his argument into such simple language that ordinary people easily understood his ideas. His powerful pamphlet got many colonists talking about independence. Let's go and take a look at the primary source, which is Thomas Paine in their words. It says, "In that the elected might never form to themselves an interest separate from the electors, prudence will point out the propriety of having elections often, because as the elected might be that means return and mix again with the general body of the electors in a few months. Their fidelity to the public will be secured by the prudent reflection of not making a rod for themselves. And as this frequent interchange will establish a common interest with every part of the community, they will mutually and naturally support each other, and on this, not on the unmeaning name of king, depends the strength of government and the happiness of the governed." So this was from Common Sense, which was published in 1776. And this is Thomas Paine just talking about, hey, we need to elect our officials that will represent us in government. So that's essentially what this is talking about. Electing our own officials that we will be able to speak for us in government in the big scheme of things. We have writing the Declaration. In June 1776, Richard Henry Lee of Virginia told the Second Continental Congress, "These united colonies are, and of a right, ought to be free and independent states." The Congress nominated 5 members to outline the colony's reasons for wanting independence from Great Britain. The members of the committee were John Adams of Massachusetts, Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania, Robert Livingston of New York, Roger Sherman of Connecticut, and Thomas Jefferson of Virginia. The committee chose Jefferson, which is pictured here, to write the first draft. He wrote for 2 weeks. Then Franklin and Adams made minor changes before presenting the Declaration to the full Congress on June 28th of 1776. The other members of the Congress argued about the wording of the document. One of the most controversial issues was language Jefferson had included about the evils of slavery. Representatives from the southern colonies, whose economies depended on slavery, wanted that language removed. John Adams later said, "I knew his southern brethren would never allow the section to pass in Congress." Jefferson ultimately agreed to take out the section, and the Southern members gave their approval, leading to Congress voting in favor of the Declaration. Again, that's a picture of Thomas Jefferson there. Signing the Declaration. After 2 days of debating the details of the Declaration, the members passed the final version on July 4th, 1776. Word spread. The document was reprinted in newspapers and posted in meeting houses and churches. On August 2nd, the members began to sign the Declaration. John Hancock, the president of the Congress, signed first. The rest of the 56 members signed beneath his signature. Each man knew he was risking his life and his property by putting his name on the Declaration. But the signers believed so strongly in independence that they took the risk. They could only hope that the colonist Continental Army would be strong enough to beat the British. So this is John Hancock was the first delegate to sign the Declaration of Independence. So let's go ahead and look at this citizen portion. This is a call for unity. The members knew that signing the Declaration of Independence would be viewed by the British government as an act of treason. This meant each man who signed put his life at risk. The members needed to be unified as they bravely met this danger. After signing, Ben Franklin is believed to have remarked, "We must all hang together, or assuredly we shall hang separately." Even though not every member of the Second Continental Congress wanted the colonies to gain independence from Great Britain, they did indeed all hang together. John Dickinson argued that the colonies should reconcile with Great Britain. He refused to sign. After Congress passed the Declaration, however, Dickinson showed his support for the new nation by joining the Pennsylvania militia. He did this even though he had disagreed with the other delegates on the question of independence. All right, so let's go and take a look at this infographic. So it says the structure of the Declaration. So this here is what the Declaration of Independence would have looked like. This was all the writing on it, and then all the signatures at the bottom. And again, I pointed out, there's John Hancock's signature, nice and big there, the first one to sign. And we talked about him a little bit earlier in the lesson. So it started off with the preamble, which is the first paragraph, is the inspirational introduction to the document. Then there's the list of grievances. This list of 27 complaints or grievances against King George III outlines why the colonists want their independence from Britain. And then the Declaration of Independence, it says the concluding paragraph states in firm terms that the colonies are declaring themselves free and independent from Great Britain. And again, remember, they said that this final version passed Congress on July 4th of 1776, and that is why we celebrate Independence Day on July 4th every year. All right, continuing on, it says, does the Declaration still matter? More than 240 years after the Declaration of Independence was signed, it still inspires people in the United States and around the world to believe in the ideal of self-government. Part of the document's success is a result of how well Jefferson made his case. The document argues that freedom belongs to everyone and no tyrant deserves the right to rule. Though the words are still powerful today, some of their meanings have changed. For example, our understanding of the important phrase, all men are created equal, has grown to include women, African Americans, Native Americans, and people of all other backgrounds. The phrase, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is often used today too. It means that all people have the natural rights or rights they are born with. No government can take these rights away. Another key phrase from the preamble argues that a government derives its power from the consent of the governed, meaning the people. This idea, taken from John Locke, describes the social contract that continues to exist between a ruler and the people. Each gains power from the other. And so this is a picture of Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which was the site of the Second Continental Congress. The statement, "It is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government," argues that the colonies are justified in their revolution. Because King George III was considered a tyrant, the Declaration states that it is the right and, more importantly, the duty of the colonist to throw off his rule over them. What about the rest of the British people? Well, the Declaration states that they will be considered enemies in war, in peace, friends. This means that if the British continue to fight, the Americans will fight back. But if they make peace, the Americans will be their friends. So let's go ahead and look at this primary source. It says "In Their Words" by Thomas Jefferson, because he was the one that actually wrote this part of the Declaration of Independence. And this is from the preamble of the Declaration. It says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.